Hello and welcome. I'm Bimbo Loyede. Tonight, about 12,000 Nigerians expected home from Cameroon as calm gradually returns to the northeast. Outgoing Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Adesola Amosu, says the military will meet the December deadline for the defeat of Boko Haram, just as Britain promises to assist Nigeria. Flood ravages Kaduna State. Victims cry out for help. And the mystery of flight MH370 is closer to being solved.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's High Commissioner to Singapore, Rajis Okpara, says she is disappointed with the Nigerian government for failing to sign bilateral agreements with Singapore.
And on sports news tonight, Team Nigeria athletes get warm reception after outstanding performance at the 2015 World Summer Games in Los Angeles.
Cheering news that within the next 24 hours, about 12,000 Nigerians are expected to return to the country from Cameroon. The returnees are those who had sought refuge in Cameroon following Boko Haram attacks. But now that there is relative peace, the refugees are coming back home. Confirming the story, the National Emergency Management Agency says about 1,000 returnees arrived the country today. According to NEMA, we already cleared those who have arrived the borders, but Nigerian immigration is yet to clear many others. A similar incident occurred last May, where over 20,000 people were returned from Lake Chad Island to allow military operations. Meanwhile, Nigeria seems to have a friend in Britain, as the United Kingdom has made a commitment to join Nigeria in its fight against terrorism. The British Deputy Chief of Defence Staff, Lieutenant General Gordon Messenger, made the commitment during a courtesy call on the Nigeria Chief of Defence Staff, Major General Abayomi Olonishakin, at the Defence Headquarters. The senior British officer emphasized that his visit was to broaden ways of collaboration between Nigeria and Britain. In his own response, Nigeria's Chief of Defence Staff acknowledged Britain's contribution to Nigeria's fight against insurgency. Now, the former Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Adesola Amosu, has expressed confidence that the military will decimate the Boko Haram sect by December this year if the momentum of the ongoing operation is sustained. At his flying out ceremony, Air Marshal Amosu, however, advised that the anti-terrorism operations must continue with the police and the immigration playing a vital role to provide internal and trans-border security. He expressed confidence that the new leadership of the military is capable of completing the operations to stamp Boko Haram out of the country. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafor, has the report.
To end his over 30 years of service to the Nigerian Air Force, the immediate past Chief of Air Staff in the company of his wife were accompanied to an aircraft where he was formerly flown out of the Nigerian Air Force. But before that, Air Chief Marshal Adesola Amosu, who amongst other things reviewed the military parade in his honor, expressed confidence that the team left behind in the Nigerian military is capable of meeting the December deadline to complete counter-insurgency operations in the country.
The people who have left behind, they are part of the team. Of course, we know that the freedom of movement and action of the Boko Haram terrorists has been substantially depleted. What is left now is the mop-up exercise. Mr. President has given the timeline that December, which the armed forces should. Don't forget there are two aspects of fighting terrorism. One aspect is the counter He's saying the counter aspect of it, which is being led by the military, must be concluded by December. But the other aspect, the anti, is a continuous process. Custom is involved. Police is supposed to be the lead in this kind of arrangement. So you still have the custom, immigration, particularly immigration is very important. They need to be empowered. Police. So that aspect is still there, but the aspect of to counter, for sure, it's an agenda that can be met.
The former Chief of Air Staff also welcomed the renewed interest by the United States of America to assist Nigeria with weapons.
Some kind of surveillance equipment that is only restricted to NATO nations for acquisition. I'm hoping that they will kind of stretch and accommodate African countries so that some of those capabilities we can have, particularly when it comes to force protection. You can actually do most of this surveillance from the air, and you'll be able to detect if you have IEDs around locations with ease. But right now, we are not enjoying that, so we are hoping that the U.S. will lift that area.
It is the tradition of the Air Force to fly out its retired chief in the country's military. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
To aviation now, the President has ordered the immediate takeover of the security of the nation's airspace over the Gulf of Guinea from Ghana. President Muhammadu Buhari also directed the Ministry of Aviation to quickly set up a new national carrier. President Muhammadu Buhari also expressed concern over the enormous debt profile of Nigeria's aviation sector, saying that his administration will act quickly to redress the situation. After receiving a briefing from the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Aviation, the President said, quote, "I am concerned about the enormous debt profile in the aviation sector. The federal government has to do something quickly because safety, security, and international respectability are involved here." End of quote. President Buhari also directed that the funding for the upgrading of the international airports in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Port Harcourt, and Enugu, which would cater for about 62 million passengers annually, be captured in the 2016 budget. Meanwhile, on the ground, over 30 houses have been affected by the heavy rainfall in Kaduna State. The rains, which caused massive flooding in some parts of the capital, lasted over 7 hours. Abubakar Kigo Road new extension is reported to be worst hit.
The floodwaters are everywhere, overtaking streets and houses. This is the aftermath of the heavy rainfall in Kaduna that lasted over 7 hours. Residents of Abubakar Kigo Road new extension have fled their homes as a result of the flood. This area is well known for its swampy topography. Those who live here are left to wade through the murky waters before they eventually go down. The residents have had enough and think it's time for the government to come to their rescue.
Honestly, I'm not happy because not that we are living near the river. The river is still far, but the drainage did not go straight. It bent. You understand? So when the river flows, it will follow the bending way of the drainage, and better even the drainage is straight, it will not even affect us. We are pleading for the government to come and at least help us. Neither they straight the drainage or they dredge the river.
Though NEMA has warned that a likely water surplus and increase in streams may affect houses close to the riverbanks, the agency is still asking citizens to help reduce the effects of the flood by taking sanitation more seriously.
To see that we don't put our waste on waterways, and we shouldn't build on waterways because water must find its ways. If we build or we put our waste on waterways or on the drainages, definitely when there is rainfall, we are bound to have flooding.
Kaduna may not be one of the states on the NEMA flood alert list, but if the rains continue this way, it may eventually make it there, forcing the government to address some of the problems raised by the residents.
The People's Democratic Party, PDP, is raising an alarm over what it calls unfair treatment of its members by the anti-graft agencies and the Department of State Services. Both the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the acting national chairman of the PDP, Mr. Uche Secondus, told journalists today at a joint press conference in Abuja that the security and anti-graft agencies are harassing their members, whereas governors of the APC are at peace. The party appealed to the anti-graft agencies to be non-partisan in the discharge of their duties.
We will also appeal to Mr. President to intervene that so far statistics shows clearly that the EFCC had only arrested members of our party, those who have served in government before. But there are APC governors and members of the APC who had served in various governments. They have been left alone. We believe that if government is very serious on the anti-corruption crusade, it cannot be one-sided.
In the meantime, the All Progressives Congress has dismissed the allegation by the PDP that it's behind the ordeal of the ex-governors facing DSS and EFCC probes. The National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, told Channels Television this evening that the party has no hands in the trial of the ex-governors. He says, quote, "The President has made it clear that he will not interfere in any probe being carried out by any anti-corruption agency, be it on APC members, its past governors, officials, or others. Whoever is invited on corruption issues, no matter his political affiliation, should answer for his conduct." End of quote. Alhaji Mohammed then gave assurances that the APC will never interfere with anti-graft probes, asking the members of the PDP who might have erred to face the consequences of their actions. In part 2, after the break, we look at the task of restructuring the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and I'll be joined by Dr. Diran Fawibe, an energy expert, and a former director of the NNPC, Professor Charles Ofwebu. Please stay with us.